In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
A 16-page long interview by Edge magazine featuring the genius mind that is Hidaka Miyazaki, the creator of Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls and Demon Souls is here. I saw Ashen Lord Memnon Entertainment took it by himself to buy it, so you wouldn't have to. I'm here to tell you about the most important parts of this interview. We'll be going in depth about Miyazaki's genius mind, our connection with George R. R. Martin, what is the Elden Ring, Godfrey, the Temple in the Sky, and so much more. So if you do like this content, do not forget to press a like, you comment down below, and you subscribe yourself to the channel. Because Ashen Lord Memnon Gaming Entertainment channel will be your first bus stop about everything else related to the Soulsborne game, or just in generally, games in general. So let's check the genius mind first in Act 1, that is Hidaka Miyazaki. As we start with the creative director of Elden Ring, Hidaka Miyazaki is hunkered down in his headquarter office in From Software, Japan. The interviewer states, though even we can see his desk as shelves lined up with colorful books, Hidaka has zero time to read them. The gap between his desk and his ceiling are stacked with board games that he has zero time to play. With only 2 months before the release date, the pressure is mounting and the crunch time has arrived. In the interview, Miyazaki states that this is the toughest point in the development in any games, not only for Elden Ring. Miyazaki says, and I quote, "At this point, just a couple of months before the release, this is when I really start to regret and doubt releasing the game into the wild. I see what everybody thinks. I could have done this better. I could have maybe approached this better." Even this involuntary thoughts plaguing his mind pre-release, Miyazaki is eager and looking forward for players to finally see his mastercraft, to enjoy it and play it and react it for the very first time. As we talk about George R. R. Martin, Miyazaki stated that he had good fond memories about the discussions. And George knew exactly what the Dark Souls games were and what exactly were they were all about. That made him very happy, and he became apprehended and he knew immediately his skill and passion about fantasy genre. Even the generation gap, it became very quickly like you were talking with an old friend. It was a pure joy talking about something with someone who has the same form of passion as you, and shows the pure joy and curiosity in constructing this fantasy world. In the interview, Miyazaki states that the key element in construction of this universe was in fact the good relationship we built early on. Mr. Martin respected the fact that they didn't ask him to write the game story or the game text, because that would limit his creative output. And if it was already limited to something like a game or already a concept in this way, it would limit the inspiration that we get from him. They established very early on that he would be writing the foundation, the historical elements, something that happens and took place long before the events of the game itself. Miyazaki said, and I quote, "We started by giving him bits and pieces, vague and broad themes and ideas of mythos that I had swimming in my head, along with all type of game that we typically made and the themes that we typically explore in our games." That shows the beauty of this incredible franchise that we are waiting for us in February itself. Moving further into the development of Elden Ring, Miyazaki stated that it was a challenging process because it was of course our very first experience in creating a world of this size and this scale. So we didn't know exactly how to approach it, but generally we approach it the same way we approach every single one of our titles in the physical aspects. Furthermore, Miyazaki stated that there were a lot of challenges that came from making a game of this scale. He had to do a lot of trials and errors since creating the Dark Souls series, and interacting those mechanics, formulas, and expanding them to a whole new scale of gaming, from tempo, the rhythm, the flow of the game, just to keep the players of keeping them not getting bored of the title they're trying to create, to keeping them interested and keeping them having fun in a massive open world game. And this brand new world that he wanted to create, Miyazaki prioritized himself that the fun and the player level freedom is more important than anything else. This is why when I tested the network test service, the form of freedom and level of experience that I had was exceptional. From the beginning to the end of the test service, one moment it was there that I was bored. As we speak about the Ring of Power in a fantasy context, it is impossible not to think about the tokens, the one Ring of Power. Miyazaki stated that as a thematic or inspiration, there is something that could have been potentially been tied to the Lord of the Rings by observers, but there is no direct link towards the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's work. In terms of concepts and difference, where the One Ring is actually something that's physical and exists and can fit in your hand, the Elden Ring and contracts is something more abstract. It represents something metaphysical. That's why when I played the network test service, there was no such thing as a ring to be found. On the contrary, you have different form of talisman that will boost your overall experience in the game itself. It was to make sure that the concept of the Elden Ring does not lost in translation. Another thing that Miyazaki mentioned when he was talking about the Holy Ground skill and the Elden Ring, you can cast it on the network test service. You can see there's a certain form of Elvish runes in it. Miyazaki stated that it's actually a representation of those two fractions, the two fingers. In terms of the logo itself, the ring that you are looking at the photo are not much representation of the two fractions as you put in, but more of this law of order, the rules of the world and the order itself. This golden order is something that the Elden Ring may have once represented, but not directly anymore. It's more about how you apply these rules and force it in the physical world and what influence they have on it. So it's more the influence what these demigods had and how they apply it in the world that you're actually playing in. So I'm very eager to see actually if we have a certain form of consequences by the action that we make that affects actually the rule of the game itself as we are journeying to become the next Elden Lord itself. There's something I'm truly eager to see how they're going to put that concept into the game itself. Godfrey represents the embodiment of the mystic and the heroics of the heroes of the ancient past. When George R.R. Martin was asked to write the different mythos and backstories of different characters and bosses you will find in the game, he was also asked to write the different mythos and backstories of different dramatic characters of the heroes of the ancient past. The coolest thing about this concept and way of thinking that is the very first time in a Soulsborne game that something like this has ever been introduced. One of our biggest motivations as a player character itself and the Elden Ring is for you to become the next Elden Lord. Therefore, this is our journey from the lands between to become the next Elden Lord itself. And in sword actually in the history of the Golden Order of the lands between, there were actually two Elden Lords. Godfrey was the very first of these. He was the very first Elden Lord, and he was married to the Eternal Queen Marika. And he was representative of this period of the grandeur and affluence. He represents everything that is great about the Elden Ring and the lands between at that time. Eventually he was exiled from the lands between, and he himself became tarnished. He shared such a deep connection with the tarnished, the player character itself. Godfrey is the embodiment of their long history and struggle. He represents a lot what the player character stands for, and he symbolized the deep connection with the player. Something that used to shine brilliantly but has now become tarnished and fallen from grace. The interviewer states as well about item description you can find in the network servers. One of them speaks about the internal city on the ground and the temple in the sky. And he asked Miyazaki, are these places actually you can visit into the game itself? And Miyazaki states, and I quote, yes, those places refer to them in terms of depths and heights of the world will be places you actually can explore. We wanted to create this world that's full of joy and exploration of the unknown. So we wanted to create a lot of enticing things for the embodying adventurers. I wanted to prepare a lot of these mysterious situations that the players would read about, hear about, and want to go look for and exploring into the game itself. So that is something actually a form of level designing and form of level of player freedom actually. I'm super excited when the first time I read about this. So I'm super excited to see what the community will bring. I find left and right, not only through my own channel, but also to my colleagues' channel and YouTube as well, where we'll be able to find a form of connectivity with a different form of Souls games. One thing actually that captivated my mind during the interview itself, he speaks about the two lords, and Godfrey is the very first one. We know about that there are two different forms of races, one who has red hair, one who has white hair. So I do think actually the second lord is actually the one who has red hair or white hair. So I think that is the battle of the children between Godfrey and the other lord, the Elden Lord, that we do not know about or haven't seen yet about. Another thing actually that Miyazaki speaks about, he talks about the Demons of Remake and the graphics of the Demons of Remake, so how it affected him and his creative process of the Elden Ring itself. He said actually it created a lot of pressure actually in creating something that truly is remarkable. He understands the frustration when the first trailer came out. He understands and he promised as well that his graphical team, as they are working day in day out to bring out the most beautiful and level designing game that ever been constructed in a Soulsborne game. He promised as well that when the game comes out, that the players actually will be astonished what they see actually. But he acknowledged the problem, he acknowledged actually the existence of that concept and the dialogue that's happening and to the community itself. But for him there's something that doesn't bother him, because for him most important thing is the player experience in his game itself. Graphics for him is second nature. For him is most importantly is the experience of the player moving forward into the game itself. He also states that he actually never plays his games because they bring too many fond memories in creating them. But he's super hyped and super excited to see the things that the Demons of Remake changed and reconstructed and doing the remake itself. And there's so much things actually that has been said into the interview that we'll be exploring throughout the year, actually all the way after the retails actually came out for the first time. So if you do like this content, definitely don't forget to press a like, your comment down below, and subscribe yourself to the channel. I also thank you very much for sticking around and listening to me. I'll see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.